Well, 10 municipal wards across the country held by-elections yesterday in Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Mpumalanga and the Western Cape. According to the IEC, nearly 100,000 registered voters will be affected by the outcomes of these elections. So what do the results say? Let's bring in independent elections expert Wayne Sussman, who joins us in studio. Wayne, it's great to see you. Always good to talk to you via our video link, but better to have you here in person. I wanted to go through, just to make things easier, to go through the results party by party. But in terms of wards and particular areas, we can't ignore Enedale, Fine Town.
Correct. So let's start there. That's in Johannesburg, in the deep south of Johannesburg. This was expected to be a neck-and-neck race between the ANC and the Patriotic Alliance. And the PA didn't just win the ward from the ANC. This was an ANC ward. Yeah. They won it by a very big margin, by over 1,500 votes. And this is a significant win for Gauteng, Mackenzie and the Patriotic Alliance. And they'll really be buoyed by this result. Yeah. And there's lots to be concerned of for the ANC. In a place like Fine Town, which is a predominantly black area in Ward 7, across the board, the ANC's results were very disappointing. They even lost one part of Fine Town to ActionSA, who had a very credible showing and finished in a strong third place. So yes, we expected the ANC to lose some ground in Enedale, which is predominantly coloured, but the results, particularly in Fine Town, are of great concern for the ANC in Gauteng on the road to 2024. Yeah.
Did the PA come completely out of left field, or were there sort of warning signs for the governing party?
I expected the PA to win the ward because the DA candidate abandoned the race, and I expected some of those DA voters to go across to the PA. But the PA won this ward by a far bigger margin than I had anticipated. So this is very encouraging for them, and the party continues to show momentum.
Wow. Talking about taking wards off from previous parties, we're still looking at confirming Nkosi-Langa Libalele, but it does seem like the ANC took a ward there off of the IFP.
Yes, so the ANC have had a very tough time of late in KwaZulu-Natal. Yeah. The IFP have been beating them across the province, from the south of the province all the way to the north and in urban areas. If this result proves to be true, which I think it will, it's very encouraging for the ANC as it shows a road to recovery. There are a lot of by-elections yesterday in the Utukela district, which is Escort and also Ladysmith. So that's on the N3 on the way to Johannesburg and KwaZulu-Natal and Durban. Yeah. And even though the ANC's only probably won one ward, it seems like their vote share has gone up in all four of those wards. And that'll tell the voter, the ANC, that not all is lost in KwaZulu-Natal, that there is a chance of recovery, and we need to watch this going forward. Yeah. Because we have to call out trends when we see them. It's without a shadow of a doubt, it cannot be questioned that the IFP as a party has shown tremendous momentum in the last few months since the 2021 local government elections. But are we going to see the ANC now starting to recover some ground, as it seems like they have in northern KwaZulu-Natal yesterday?
Yeah, I've been tracking your tweets over the past sort of 12 hours as the results have been coming in, Wayne. And speaking of, building to 2024, because that's how we're looking at these municipal by-elections, right? It's all on the road to the national election next year. The EFF, for example, not featuring very well on these outcomes.
Yeah, I didn't expect the EFF to have a good showing. They've been battling a lot in KwaZulu-Natal. I was watching to see what they would do in the Fine Town part of Ward 7 in the deep south of Johannesburg, where they had some modest growth. But unfortunately for them, the one ward where they had real opportunity was in Mkondo, in Mpumalanga, formerly Piet Retief on the Eswatini border. There the ANC grew. The ANC had a very good result there. They've now won 10 consecutive by-elections in Mkondo, a very beleaguered part of Mpumalanga, and they are showing good signs in Mpumalanga. I expected the EFF to be making inroads in this part of Mpumalanga, so not a good night for the EFF, but don't count them out, because in a few weeks' time they have an opportunity in Mangaung and Rustenburg.
Yeah. ActionSA?
ActionSA had a good showing last night. They came third in Ward 7 in Johannesburg. They won, as I said earlier, this voting district in Fine Town, in a black, which is a 100% black area, in Ward 7. They grew in parts of Ennerdale, but particularly in Fine Town. That will encourage them greatly.
Yeah. So Wayne, how much are we looking at by-elections like this one, and the ones that you say are coming up on the road to 2024? How much can this tell us about how these parties will perform next year?
That's a great question. Let's just look at the DA's results while I answer that question. Yep. The DA had a very good night last night. They grew tremendously in this eThekwini ward in Durban, where it used to be an ANC seat. The DA almost beat the ANC by 2-1. You saw the DA in their strongholds in Tableview, in Cape Town, and in Middelburg, in Mpumalanga, and in Pretoria, in Tshwane, do very, very well. So what we're seeing is that, on the one hand, it's not, as you say, it's not just about the by-elections, but also the road to 2024. And what we've seen are some indications. One, ANC recovering some lost ground in KwaZulu-Natal. We're seeing the DA continue to do well in its strongholds. We're seeing the PA continue to be a force in the south of Johannesburg. And these trends emerged in the 2021 local government elections. Let's just, another quick point in ActionSA. What was ActionSA's big selling point in the 2021 local government elections? We can win votes in the suburbs and we can win votes in the township. Last night we see them again win votes in the township. So we see these continuation of these trends. Yeah. There are those who write the ANC off. I tell you, look at Mkondo in Mpumalanga. Look at the ANC recovering lost ground in KwaZulu-Natal. The ANC is still a major force in rural parts of South Africa. But can they go back to the drawing board and say what went wrong in Fine Town yesterday and how do we energize our voters on the road to 2024? I suppose predictable areas, quote unquote, areas like the Western Cape, that will be interesting to watch, especially given the PEC from the ANC now apparently getting their house in order many, many years later. Correct. So the ANC have just elected new leadership. So there was a very small voting district in this Tableview ward, Parklands ward yesterday, where the ANC did relatively well in the 2021 local government elections. Turnout there extremely low, the ANC losing ground. Yeah. So their new elected leadership needs to go back to the drawing board. There's a ward in George, which is coming up on July the 19th, where the ANC will want to target, because they'll want to show voters that they have the chance of not only bringing the DA under 50% in the Western Cape in 2024, but also leading a coalition back. But it's a long way to go for the ANC in the Western Cape. Yeah, absolutely. And around the country, there's been a lot of talk about the ANC falling under 50% in next year's national election. In fact, Fikile Mbalula himself said that there are fears the party might fall under 30% next year. No. Fikile Mbalula, whoever gave him that poll, that's riddled with errors. Yeah. I would say the ANC are hovering on the 50% mark. And that is why we need to look at these by-elections carefully. And that's why it's very, very important to speak about it, because it is about the now. We might see governments fall in local governments, like, for instance, in Nkosi Langali Balele. We now see in the city of Johannesburg that the PA will be stronger in that coalition because of this additional seat. However, it's also about that eye on 2024. And to Fikile Mbalula, I would say, look at what your party's just done in Mkondo, where you've grown. Look at those signs. I've said this 4 times before, but it is an emerging trend that there are pockets of hope in northern KwaZulu-Natal for the ANC after yesterday's by-elections. So they're not on the 30% mark. I would say they're close to the 50% mark. However, if results like Fine Town play itself out in 2024, and the ANC continues to struggle in urban areas across the country, if the ANC continues to lose many of the coloured voters it had in places like Durban, in the Newlands area where we had a by-election yesterday, the ANC is in big trouble, but they're not near 30%. I would say they're close to 50%. Are we surprised by these numbers, Wayne, just given the demographic of the South African voter for 2024? I mean, the bulk of voters going to the polls next year will be young people. Well, that's a very important point you're making, and that's why we're seeing all these initiatives about registering first-time voters. Because I want to remind the viewers, it's not just about showing up and voting. You first have to get an ID book. You second of all have to register, and be sure to register in the area you're likely to vote next year, because otherwise your vote is not as impactful. And thirdly, to show up and vote. And that is absolutely key.
Yeah.
We're going to have to watch those registration weekends very, very closely. By the way, every time there's a by-election, you can register in those particular wards. So let's continue to watch those registration figures, and also to continue to monitor the turnout in urban provinces, generally urban provinces like the Western Cape, Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal, where the ANC is more vulnerable, and the more rural provinces. These are the trends we need to look at, because that will inform us how well the ANC will or will not do next year.
Certainly, and this will be the first of many, many discussions you and I will have over the coming months. Wayne Sussman, let me thank you for your time this morning. He is an independent elections expert.